controversial new law was approved in Israel this week that rights groups say would deepen apartheid and kill Palestinian detainees faster and with less scrutiny. The law imposes the death penalty by hanging for what a military court deems terrorist acts. So what does this mean for Palestinians under Israeli occupation? Joining me to discuss this is human rights lawyer Diana Buttu. Thank you very much for joining us on UpFront. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Diana, this law imposes the death penalty by hanging on anyone who kills, quote, with the intent to deny the existence of the state of Israel. What does that even mean in legal terms, to deny the existence of the state of Israel?
Well, in lay terms, what it means is that it's anybody who is not Jewish. That's effectively what it means. So in practice, what it has meant is that if a person who is Jewish does the killing and they kill somebody who is Palestinian, they will not be anywhere close to receiving the death penalty. Whereas if it's a Palestinian, then they will. And I think it's important to keep in mind that this isn't a question of murder. This isn't the death penalty that we see in other countries around the world, such as in the United States, where it's a question of prosecuting murder. But this is only in relation to, as they would put it, denying the existence of the state of Israel, meaning that anybody who wants to seek Palestinian freedom. And so far, just since the start of this year, there have been 8 Israelis who have killed 8 Palestinians. And we don't see that any of these Israelis are going to be prosecuted, much less, if they were prosecuted, get the death penalty, because they're not killing with the intent to deny the state of Israel. They're killing for the sole purpose of the state of Israel. They're committing murder for the sake of the state of Israel, and that's going to be the difference.
So one member of the Knesset recently said there are no innocent civilians and children in the Palestinian West Bank city of Jenin. When you have a law that mandates execution, and you have lawmakers, parliamentarians speaking this genocidal language, are you worried that the law will be applied indiscriminately?
So in the land that is from the river to the sea, there are 2 different military systems in place. The first military system is what most people would refer to as a civilian military system. And that military system is only in place for people who are Israeli. The second system that is in place is the system that exists in the West Bank and used to exist in the Gaza Strip, and that's a military system. That is only applicable to Palestinians. It's a court system that has a conviction rate of over 90%. Most of the convictions are the result of torture or the result of again, confessions through secret evidence or through torture. And in those circumstances, we're seeing that that's going to be a mandatory death penalty for those Palestinians.
You know, just staying with that, the impunity with which this has happened, Israel's Channel 13 says that the country has already started building an execution facility that is cynically dubbed Israel's Green Mile. Executions will be done by hanging. What do these preparations actually tell us about how imminent the executions are under this new law and how they're going to be normalized?
I think they're going to start very quickly. What they're going to do is I think that they're going to finish up trials very, very, very quickly so that they can go ahead and carry out these hangings. And it's important to remember that there will not be an appeal process. So unlike in other places around the world, there is no appeals process. They must be carried out within 90 days. And the other thing that's important to keep in mind is that we've already seen that this Minister of National Security, the man who was promoting this law, he was walking around wearing a pin that was in the shape of a noose. He was doing social media videos in front of a set of gallows, a noose. And he even had somebody within his own political party dress up as an executioner for the Jewish holiday of Purim. The Israeli public is very much behind this. If they weren't, that we would have seen some level of outrage, but it just doesn't exist. And so I think that they're going to very much fast track this, again, because they can.
Under international law, Israel is actually not permitted to legislate on the West Bank, since this area is not part of Israel's sovereign territory. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk also called for the law to be repealed, saying that it is a violation of international law. So my question is, if it is even illegal, can it be successfully challenged?
Well, here's the problem with the international legal system, is that it requires that you first use the domestic system and then use any international mechanisms. And Palestinians have done both. Under Israel's domestic system, they have effectively legalized the imposition of Israeli military law. They've done this since 1967. And so since 1967, we've seen that that the Israelis have been passing all sorts of military rules when it comes to Palestinians. This is the essence of apartheid, is that Palestinians don't get to choose the very people who are instituting laws against them. And so we've seen that on the domestic side, where the Israeli Supreme Court has upheld this in the past. The second part of it is that Palestinians have taken these types of cases to international courts, in particular the International Court of Justice. And the International Court of Justice also said that Israel's actions in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip are illegal and that they must be stopped. Again, however, it goes back to the issue of political will and whether anybody is going to stop Israel. And once again, it's important to point out that if they haven't stopped Israel when it's come to genocide, the worst of international crimes, I don't think that they're going to do anything to stop Israel when it comes to this death penalty law.
And just talking about the double standards here, I mean, Israel is currently imprisoning about 9,500 Palestinians and has been accused of torturing detainees. I mean, just last month, I think the world was aghast when 5 Israeli soldiers walked free. They were accused of a gruesome sexual violation that left a Palestinian detainee with extensive injuries. How does this lack of accountability contrast with this new law?
When it comes to that Palestinian who was very brutally raped and almost died from it, he ended up not ever being charged with anything because he didn't do anything. And so again, you see that these prisons are just a mechanism for freely torturing Palestinians and for these soldiers to be able to get away with it. We have seen over time, and it's not just October of 2023, but over time, since 1967, even earlier, that less than 3% of Israelis who carry out crimes against Palestinians actually face any form of conviction. This very same minister once served as the lawyer for a man who burned an 18-month-old Palestinian child and his parents to death. He burned them in their house. And again, we see this time and again where settlers literally get away with murder. Other Israelis get away with murder. There's such a low conviction rate among civilians and an even lower conviction rate when it comes to soldiers who carry out crimes.
Diana Buttu, thank you very much for joining us on UpFront.
My pleasure.
That's our show. UpFront will be back next week. Goodbye.